This episode has been recorded as a part of the previous Healthy Habits podcast. We've decided to keep it now under the name Joyful, as the topics we've discussed remain extremely relevant, and it's just such a shame to miss out on this valuable conversation we had. Enjoy! It's a typical Saturday morning. The day before, you went out with your friends, you had a beer or two at a bar, as usual, and you woke up twice this night. And although you slept for 9 hours, you don't feel particularly rested. You grab your phone, you check out your messages, Instagram feed, your email, and once you catch up on all that you've missed while sleeping, you decide to get up. Throughout the rest of your Saturday, you find yourself glued to your phone, indulging in meals and binge-watching on your favorite series. The plan to hit the gym takes a backseat, as the chilly weather and fatigue make it less appealing. Sounds familiar? Consider rewriting your narrative. In the Healthy Habits podcast, we're building a community of individuals committed to personal growth. We openly discuss the challenges, the victories, and the journey towards cultivating a healthy and fulfilling life. Listen to experts who talk about health and individuals who share their inspiring stories. Tune in with Healthy Habits podcast. Who are you? It's a difficult question to answer, as you are made from many different elements. Your beliefs and thoughts, the relationships that you have with others, from your culture and upbringing. You're made from your past experiences, from your current set of qualities, your values and beliefs, and from your goals, which shape the future you. In psychology, there is something we call the concept of self. Self is not something easily defined, however. According to scientists White, Dunn, and Hammer, a self-concept is a collection of beliefs that you have about your own nature, your unique qualities, and typical behavior. Your self-concept is your mental picture of yourself, a collection of self-perceptions. So, for example, a self-concept might include such beliefs as I'm easygoing, or I'm pretty, or I'm hardworking. Our past experiences shape who we are today. I may think that I'm hardworking because in the past, I showed this quality on a number of occasions. I can think that I'm an unsociable person, for instance, because in the past, I remember not feeling at ease in social situations. So perhaps I was startled when a stranger made eye contact, or I usually don't like engaging in small talks. Perhaps I remember that very often I felt so awkward when I was in a group setting and I didn't know what to say. And so today, very often, I choose to stay in rather than go out and socialize. So these things that I remember about myself, they contribute to the belief that I have, which is that I'm not a sociable person. And although this belief can be true, it can reflect my own preference or my character. It can also become something that blocks me from becoming a person that I would perhaps like to be. So I'm not saying that not being a sociable person is a bad thing. It's completely okay. But let's say that I would like to change that about myself, that I'm upset because I can't make any friends. So this belief that I have that I'm awkward and weird when I'm with people makes it harder for me to change. And in terms of health, these kinds of beliefs, for example, I am not a sports person, may actually block us from living a healthier life. So I think it's important to realize that these beliefs, they can be changed. But how to do that? In this episode, I will present you 3 concepts which I believe are important in order to understand how we may change these beliefs we have. Our self-concept is made of various elements, as I've mentioned, but a major part of who we believe to be is impacted by our memory. So first, I will provide insights on the character of our memories. I will show you that scientists have proven memories to be fragile, unstable, and prone to change. Next, I will talk about one of the existing frameworks that try to explain the relationship between the self and our autobiographical memory. And finally, I will shift focus to the wiring of our brains, unraveling the assumptions of predictive processing. This theory posits, in short, that our actions are rooted in the predictions formulated by our brains. I will unpack the implications of this theory for our overall functioning, and I hope that this will get you an idea about how you may alter the wiring of your brain. By navigating through these concepts, I hope to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of how we can actively participate in reshaping our beliefs and in transforming our self-concept. As I've said, the way we perceive ourselves is influenced by our memories. On the other hand, however, it has been shown in multiple studies that our memory is unreliable and malleable. So a question naturally arises: how can we form our self-image based on something so fragile? Our memories are not stable, they change and evolve, and we never remember anything exactly the way it happened. Every time that we remember something, the recalled event is being reconstructed. This reconstruction of a memory is being impacted by various factors, by our current motivations, goals, and emotions, but also by all the things that have happened since this initial event. And finally, it is also impacted by the affective state we were in at the moment of encoding, so at the moment of the happening of this initial event. For example, I may have a memory of giving a horrible speech at a friend's wedding party. And back then I felt embarrassed and I couldn't talk about it for many days. But now, as I look at the situation from a different perspective, I think it was rather funny. And so you can see there are different emotions that accompanied me during the encoding of this memory, and there are different emotions that accompany me right now as I remember this event. They both impact how I remember and how I will tell this story. From the neuroanatomical perspective, there is no one location for memories, as they are distributed across various regions of the brain. When we recall a specific memory, the neural networks associated with that memory are triggered, leading to its reactivation. This reactivation renders the memory temporarily unstable, creating an opportunity for it to be altered, revised, or disrupted. This dynamic nature suggests that memories are subject to change. Intriguingly, this phenomenon, so the fact that our memories are dynamic and may change, aligns with the therapeutic approaches employed in treatment of various psychological conditions. For instance, we may take a look at the individuals who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. In therapy, individuals with PTSD would often revisit the traumatic experiences they had, and they actively engage in the process of altering the emotional interpretation and contextual understanding of those events, which essentially make them process the traumatic experience that they had. And so this phenomenon that our memories may change and our emotion may be reprocessed regarding an event that has already happened to us, make it possible for various forms of therapy to work. Before I move on to explain the link between self and autobiographical memory in more detail, I wanted to share a side note with you. Our memories, they are constantly changing. A renowned scientist called Elizabeth Loftus pushed this even further. She designed a study where scientists planted false memories in people's memory. 24 participants, mostly college students as usual, were told that the study was about childhood memories and that the researchers were interested in how and why some people remember certain things while others did not. In science, we usually use this kind of masking procedures because the participants usually can't know what the study is actually about, because that would bias the final results. The participants were sent home a booklet which contained 4 short narratives about childhood memories. The memories were created with help of the relatives, and what the participants did not know was that only 3 of these memories were actually true, while the 4th narrative was a false memory. The false memory was always the same, and it involved a situation where the child was lost in a shopping mall. This memory was also created with help of the relatives because it involved some personalized details, such as the name of the shopping mall that the participant had actually a chance to go to, the names of the relatives he was there with, and so on. So the participants were asked to read the narratives and then complete the booklets with their own details of the memories. And if a memory could not be remembered, the participants were asked to write, "I don't remember this memory." Then the participants were invited for the interviews, and the researchers asked them to recall exact details of their memories. After the interview, the participants were debriefed, which means that they were told the actual goal of the study, and they discovered that one of the memories was actually false. Importantly, a significant number of participants attributed the false memory as their own. It was a quarter of the participants who took part in the study. So they attributed the false memory as their own, and they were able to give specific details about what has actually happened. So imagine that you've never actually been lost in the shopping mall, but you can give specific details about what happened because you were made believe, so you were misled to believe that this has actually happened to you. Moreover, even after the debriefing procedure, it was still difficult for some of the participants to believe that they were actually misled. This study shows, like no other study, the malleability of human memory. If you want to find out more about Elizabeth Loftus' research, I invite you to read her articles, or go and check out her TED Talk. She talks about how false memories may impact the legal system and may have serious consequences on the lives of individuals. Although malleable, our memory is strongly connected to our self-concept. This relationship between autobiographical memory and the sense of self has been shown, among others, by Martin Conway, an English researcher who recently passed away but left a big body of work on the concept of autobiographical memory. He is the author of a framework called the Self-Memory System, and I would like to present you this framework in more detail so that you understand how your self is dependent on your memory and vice versa. Perhaps it's important to explain that our memory has been classified into many different categories by modern psychologists. Autobiographical memory refers to the collection of memories that you have about your own life experiences and personal history. It involves the recollection of specific events, emotions, and knowledge about oneself, and it allows to create a narrative that contributes to your sense of identity and continuity over time. Autobiographical memory is said to be made from two kinds of events. Events of episodic character, which is a recall of specific events or episodes from one's life. So it might be, for example, your memory of a trip that you took to Amsterdam in 2016, or it might be what you had for breakfast yesterday. These memories include details such as time, place, or emotions, which make it possible for us to relive and re-experience the things that happened. So, for example, in case of my memory of the breakfast I ate yesterday, I can see with my mind's eye, where was I, what did I eat, who did I have this breakfast with, and so on. I can perhaps also hear the sounds that accompanied me during this breakfast or smell the smells that I smelled yesterday. Autobiographical memory is also made of events of semantic character. These events, they relate to the ability to recall general knowledge and facts about oneself, such as the information about the beliefs or values that I have. So the semantic and autobiographical knowledge allows for the understanding of my identity. It's the information that I have about my religion, culture, nationality. It may also be the factual knowledge regarding the schools I went to, and so on. Autobiographical memory allows us to create our life story. Importantly, the narrative we create for ourselves reflects our psychology. For instance, it has been shown that people with depression are observed to show a specific profile of their life story, where they show a diminished sense of agency and fewer details in the memories that they recall. The way we remember our past says a lot about who we are and a lot about who we can become. Let's illustrate that on an example. I think that I'm lazy because in the past I felt little motivation to do stuff. Maybe those around me described me as lazy and I simply fit into this role. I remember situations where I was lazy and it is predominant in my self-image. So I have two options. Either I conform, so I continue to behave this way because this is who I am, or I start to act differently. Perhaps I start noticing the moments of my productivity and not the moments of procrastination. Maybe this will give me the motivation and the drive to engage in more and more activities. And so, in some time from now, my memories of me won't be those of laziness, but they will be the memories of productivity and discipline. This way, I can participate in changing my self-image. I will notice the difference, and surely others will notice the difference soon as well. In the context of Healthy Habits podcast, we invite you to start this change, to act in line with your motivation and work towards becoming your ideal self. A number of scientists agree that not all our memories are equally available to us. Each of us has a set of self-defining moments which are remembered better than other events. So for example, I can remember especially clearly the exam I failed because it made me re-examine my life choices and eventually it had an impact on who I became. In the example of me being a lazy person, I will remember mostly the moments where I was lazy and so on. It is impossible to remember everything that happened to us equally well. So, our brain creates a strategy and retains only the information that seems to be most important. I invite you to try and pay more attention to the events that you remember most. Are they happy or sad? Why do they seem important to you? Conway also talks about coherence. This concept describes the fact that the memories we have access to are in line with our current view of who we are. If I'm a dedicated fan of a chosen football team, I will probably remember above all the successes and not the failures of my favorites. If today I'm a politician, I will probably remember the events where I showed my activist nature. And then, if you think about the example that I just gave you about being lazy, the fact that today I view myself as a lazy person makes me remember most the events where I was lazy, and this is the coherence as described by Conway. So to explain this phenomenon, Conway creates also the notion of the working self. So the working self is a complex set of active goals and self-images. And so Conway argues that the memories we have of ourselves, they try to always correspond to our current goals, so to be in line with our working self. If it seems unclear, just try to imagine someone who does not have this coherence. So someone tells you that she's a famous opera singer, for example, yet she can't sing, she has no recollection of ever being on a scene, and so on. You would probably think that this person has some kind of a psychological disorder or she's delusional. So you see that memory and self are closely related to each other. You can today choose to act in a way to form the recollections that you will have, and so you can choose the self that you will create. Finally, in order to explain the concept of predictive processing, I would like to share with you a book that I read recently. It's titled 7.5 Lessons About the Brain, and it is written by an extraordinary researcher, which I admire, Lisa Feldman Barrett. Lisa Feldman Barrett is a researcher at Northeastern University and the director of the Interdisciplinary Affective Science Laboratory. She has done some remarkable work which changed the way we think about emotions today. I especially admire her ability to defend her theories that she has developed and, if necessary, go against even the well-established theories. Anyway, in her book, which I recommend to all of you, Lisa Feldman Barrett describes in 7.5 short chapters how our brains work. Her view aligns with the predictive processing theory, as in one of the chapters she explains that our entire experience of the reality is based on the predictions our brain makes, and to illustrate that, she gives us an example. An example of a soldier who is at war. The soldier sees the enemy and points his gun at him, and it's only thanks to his colleagues who tell him, "Stop, what are you doing? It's just a boy," that the soldier realizes that he has mistaken a young boy shepherd walking with a stick for a soldier with a gun. It's not unusual for things like that to happen. Our brain constantly predicts what it should be seeing in a given moment at a given time based on the past experiences it remembers. So in the situation of the soldier, his brain predicted that being where he is right now, waiting for the enemy to show up, what he's going to see now is the enemy. And so the brain already predicted and told the body to execute the action, so point the gun and shoot. Predictive processing suggests that the brain constantly generates predictions about sensory input and updates these predictions based on incoming information. The core idea is that the brain uses a top-down processing approach where higher-level cognitive processes generate expectations, and these expectations are compared with the actual sensory input. So the brain predicts its next action based on the context and then sends out information to the body. So if it predicts badly, either you will make a mistake and the soldier shoots the shepherd boy, or it realizes it made a mistake and does some rewiring, a process in science we call learning. Amazingly, the brain first prepares the action and only afterwards processes the sensory information. Various research shows that your brain prepares the action before you are aware of it. That means that a large part of your behavior is automatic and is based on your past and on the environment that you're currently in. it does not mean that it comes out of nowhere. It's you, in the past, who has created these automatics. For instance, if as a kid you would get a chocolate bar every time you were sad or angry, it's probable that you will automatically reach out for a sweet, sugary snack when you're feeling upset. If you learn that when you're feeling stressed, you need to engage in a physical activity, that would be your go-to reaction. But if you associate it with a cigarette, you know. In the same way, Feldman Barrett explains, our brain forms interpretations of our body's signals. For instance, if you didn't sleep well, you're very tired and you have no energy the next day. But your brain may interpret this tiredness with being hungry, because the last time you felt energyless was because you needed food. So you will be more likely to eat more because your brain sends out the signals to your body that you should eat because you're tired. You cannot change the past, but you can learn to form new predictions for your brain. Lisa Feldman Barrett mentions that through appropriate prediction change, it's even possible to create place for empathy and understanding between groups in conflict. So she gives the example of an organization called Seeds of Peace. This organization tries to organize activities for teens and children in communities in conflict, for example, Indians and Pakistanis or Israelis and Palestinians. By engaging in activities like soccer or leadership training, the children get to interact with each other and talk about their differences and similarities in a neutral environment, which gives us hope that their future brains might end up forming different predictions regarding the intentions of the other side of the conflict. And so in the future, these conflicts perhaps could be overcome. Our brain forms predictions and functions by means of anticipation of the future with use of the information from the past. It relates to the simple perceptual processes, such as mistaking a face of a stranger in the crowd with a face of a friend we are currently thinking about, and to more complex behaviors, for example, reaching for a cigarette when in a stressful moment. Understanding this link of our past, present, and future is the first step to regaining control of our lives and actively engaging in creating the life we want to have. In our podcast, we focus on habits. We understand habits not necessarily as automatic behaviors that one executes, but we see habits as small, repeated, and systematic actions that may impact your life in a great manner. Let's visualize. You decide to buy your dream pair of shoes. You bought them online and they arrive and you try them on and they are beautiful. Perhaps not the most comfortable, but you like them so much that you think the fact that they are a little uncomfortable would not stop you from wearing them. And so you keep them and you wear them a lot, as often as possible, as it's your favorite pair of shoes. After a couple of months, you start to experience some pain in your hip and sometimes in your back, especially on the left side of your body. You do not realize that this pain has its source in your feet. Your beautiful shoes, although aesthetically perfect, are not serving your health. If you wore these shoes once, nothing would have probably happened, but as you continue to wear them for years, your feet continues to get deformed, and this deformation is followed by problems in your hips, in your spine, and in other parts of your body. Now imagine a different scenario. First, think about yourself from 2 years ago. What goals did you have back then? What plans? Did you manage to accomplish them? Let's say that your goal from 2 years ago was to learn Spanish on a good B2 level. If for the last 2 years you would learn 6 words each day, by now you would know around 4,400 words, which, according to language learning schools, is the amount of words you should know on a B2 level. Of course, there are also other elements to language, so you should also take care of learning some grammar, you should practice your speaking abilities, your listening skills, and so on. But with 4,400 words, you should be able to communicate on a B2 level, and it can be accomplished just by learning 6 words every day. We argue that systematical behavior, even small, has the power to create the future you. It's you who decide what this behavior will be, smoking or meditation. Taking care of yourself and consciously choosing who you are not always have to be related to some science-established protocols which have to be good for your health. For me, something extremely powerful for my well-being is having the time to engage in my chosen ritual. Even if objectively it may not have any health benefits, I feel so good when I drink a glass of warm water in the morning or every evening when I take a shower in the candlelight. These little habits, rituals, they make all the difference for me. I feel in control and at peace when I can find the time and enjoy these habits of mine. A very important for a Healthy Habits podcast is the idea that in order to fully experience life, one should above all take care of his mental and physical health. In today's world, we still seem to think about health only when it begins to fall. The ongoing trends from lifestyle blogs and the growing scientific knowledge, they only start to set up a new direction, and with this podcast, we wish to contribute to this mission. We believe that we should shift our perspective and finally begin to act mostly with the tools of preventive medicine. But we are not doctors, and this is not our place to tell anyone how to handle one's health issues. We are coming from the place of science, and which is why we want to bring you the facts. The leading cause of death in the world, according to World Health Organization reports from 2019, is ischemic heart disease, also called the coronary heart disease, which is a heart damage caused by poor blood flow to your heart. The list continues, and the non-communicable diseases are stroke, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, trachea bronchus or lung cancer, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and kidney diseases. From these, coronary heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer, diabetes are diseases that very often can be cured by preventive medicine by the formation of a long-lasting change in behavior. As I'm from Europe, and I would like to also give you some data regarding the countries from Europe, according to the reports from Eurostat, also from 2019, the leading causes of death in countries from the European Union are cardiovascular diseases, 33%, and cancer, 23%. This means that 56% of deaths are caused by diseases that very often, not always, but often, may occur due to unhealthy lifestyle and execution of bad habitual behaviors, such as, and this is only my interpretation, my reflection regarding those bad habitual behaviors, it can be stuff like drinking wine or beer to everyday dinner, smoking, unhealthy diet, or chronic stress. The financial costs of treating these are another aspect. The financial costs of treating those diseases, but also other diseases which occurrence can be limited by changes in behavior throughout lifespan, is enormous. The condition of health system in various countries around Europe, and surely in other parts of the world, is very often questionable. I believe that by applying science-based knowledge to everyday life and by changing the decision-making processes, it's possible to unburden the hobbling health service. It may bring unspoken benefits to you and to your close ones. Your life quality and your lifetime can be improved. So if you change a small behavior now and you act in favor for your health, you may gain extra time with your friends and family, and you can save tons of money on medication and doctor's appointments. Also, imagine if everyone takes care of their health before it actually gets bad, it means that doctors would have way more time to cure the diseases, and we could make a very good change in the functioning of health system. We talk about self-improvement and we talk about improved life quality, but what is an improved life quality? I think that, well, it's a difficult question. There is no one answer, but I'm persuaded that being in good health is the first step to having a good life. We do not offer magic solutions, and we don't give any guarantees, and we don't think a habit can be a recipe or an instruction to have a better life. We have a hypothesis that we wish to explore. Our hypothesis is that in order to feel fulfilled, one should take care of his health through good diet, physical activity, good sleep hygiene, and social interaction, and one should have the time to set his goals in a realistic fashion and then achieve them, all the while enjoying the journey of getting where he wants to be. We think that habit has a great role in this endeavor, and in order to explore this hypothesis, we launched this podcast. So how to change our behavior, how to stop eating junk food or start doing more exercise, how to comply with the obligations we make to ourselves and not give up halfway, how to overcome the temptation of instant gratification, how to invite gratitude and love for yourself and others to your life, how to do all that even when we are sad, angry, and tired. Well, we don't know. We invite psychologists, neuroscientists, doctors, dietitians, biohackers, and other experts who tell us about habits, good and bad, motivations for our actions, or decision-making processes. They help us understand why it's difficult for some to keep up a good habit and easier for others. They tell us about their work and about different ways of improving everyday life experiences, and about different challenges that we all face in professional and personal lives. We also invite inspirational figures, entrepreneurs, artists, or athletes who share their path to achieving their ultimate performance. We would like to find out whether it is more discipline or passion that drives their success, and whether they have some secret habits or routines that they keep up. So become a conscious observer of your decisions and actions. Join our community. Listen to our guests and share your own thoughts, victories, and challenges that you face in following a lifestyle you choose. Before we finish, I invite you to take part in our challenges, which will appear at the end of every episode and will be brought to you by our guests. The first challenge starts today, and it's a challenge from me. I want you to think about 3 questions that will allow you to reflect on who you are and where you're heading. The questions are as follows. Why am I here? What can I bring to the world? And when am I the happiest? Share these questions with your friends and invite them to this common reflection. This is the first episode of Healthy Habits Podcast. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram, where we will keep you updated about our guests and other activities. Let the journey begin.